We think it's the most important channel. We think it's the most authentic channel. And honestly, I think it's the future of how advertising is going to continue to evolve.
Welcome to Games Growth with Upptic, a podcast about the discipline of scaling digital games. We speak with industry experts and investigate trends to highlight the strategies, technology, and tactical methodology you can use to profitably grow your game to massive global audiences. If you're interested in learning more, visit us at Upptic.com. My name is Andrew Agosta. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Upptic, and joining me today are my co-host,
Warren Woodward, Co-Founder of Upptic.
And our guest.
I'm Bradley Kincaid. I'm the co-founder at Lucky Axolotl Creative Studio.
And I'm Emilee Helm. I'm the head of influencers at Gamesight.
Awesome. Very excited to have you folks join us. Exciting episode today. We'll be talking about influencer marketing and UGC content strategies. Quite a broad bucket of topics, and so we'll section it off into a few different groups. I want to get started with just some foundational work for folks who might not know you or understand what your companies are. Emilee, will you just talk very briefly about what Gamesight is and what you do there and how the influencer marketing fits into the business overall?
Yeah, Gamesight is a marketing attribution platform at its core for PC and console games. Because of that, we have some great data, great proprietary data that we utilize to make really highly data-driven influencer campaigns. And so our influencer service is end-to-end, anywhere from ideation all the way to the contracting and scheduling. And so we handle all things influencer on my team.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. And then we'll take the other side of the coin with Bradley.
Lucky Axolotl Creative Studio is a creative studio run purely by creative. Everyone that works there has years and years of experience, whether it's in broadcast radio, social media, website design, acting, UGC, you name it. What we do specifically is we make UGC ads. We have some clients that come to us and they know exactly what they want. We film it for them. They'll bring us a cartoon and be like, hey, make this real. And then we have some clients that are like, hey, we really rely on your thought leadership in the space to create something that's going to resonate with our audience.
Awesome. Yeah, we're really excited to have both of you here. At Upptic, we talk a lot about the three pillars of growth being kind of like the acquisition or operational piece of marketing. Creative is like the heart and the fuel. And then the analytics and data side that informs those decisions. And really glad to have both of you on here to talk about UGC and influencer, because I think, Bradley, we worked with you in your former roles, and Emilee, we've got a good working relationship with Gamesight. And I think both of you have always also working from a creative standpoint, but like at that nexus of how does the marketing arm, how does the data arm interact with creative?
Yep. Awesome. So let's start at the highest of high levels. What is the current state of influencer and UGC marketing in 2023?
More and more companies are starting to understand how to harness UGC, right? More and more companies are starting to create their own influencer networks that they can work with. They're using their own company representatives to film ads. They're finding companies like ours to work with. They need a face to be their brand, essentially. And that's where UGC comes in.
I completely agree. What we see a lot is that user-generated content is the content that converts. When you let your talent and your creators drive the creative strategy, they are the experts, right? And they know what works because they're in it every single day. We're seeing more creators, I would say, be challenged to do more unique and creative content, not just your standard streams or gameplay or even just reviews. Audiences are really looking for something to grab their attention. And right now, the space is so saturated that you have to get their attention. And creators of all kinds are really raising the bar, I think, to make sure that their content is unique and stands out.
Awesome. Thanks, Emilee. We're focusing today on two sides of the same coin, which is what a lot of people would think of as traditional influencer marketing as a channel, and UGC creative used for advertising. A lot of times, even the same people do both kinds of work. So maybe up top here, let's just get really clear definitions for purposes of our conversation today, and how both of you think of the relationship and difference between influencer marketing and UGC for creative.
I found Twitch one day and I was like, I'm going to be the next big streamer. And I started writing companies instantly. I'm like, hey, sponsor me. They're like, you know what? We like your style. We think you're awesome, but your numbers, they just don't meet. I was like, okay, well, you don't like me and my numbers. How about me and 100 of my friends with the same numbers, all micro influencers, locked arms doing the same task? And that's how Gaming Gauntlets was born, my first company in the gaming space. And what we realized is that a lot of companies at the time, they were like spending hundreds of $1,000s on large streamers to stream the product, and they were seeing little results. But what we saw was with micro influencers, there's huge results because every human has potential. And what we do here is we try to tap into that potential, find those micro influencers, because you don't need their following. What you need is their personality and ability to connect. You boost that video versus trying to rely on their personal following, and you're probably more likely to get better results.
Gotcha. Unpacking that a little bit for purposes of where you're specializing a bit more, Bradley, of UGC content for ads. You're basically saying, hey, if you make great content and are compelling, let's capture that and then let's power it out through traditional advertising channels and use that to force the exposure and then let your content be the thing that drives conversion.
That's why we pivoted. We started running into issues by doing the traditional influencer marketing. So we started doing the studio model, where what we do here now is we find our local cooks, our dishwashers, our bankers, our lawyers. We have police officers, teachers that love creating content, and we empower them with the ability to do. And they are almost all of our actors in our stable are high performing actors because the content that they create, not because of their current following.
Got it. So Emilee, let's go to you maybe to touch on the other side of that coin. What is Gamesight's thesis, your team's thesis on influencer marketing as a channel and what that means in 2023 and how people should think of it as a lever?
Yeah, as a channel, influencer marketing is one of the most important channels, I think, for games. It's the way that I would say fans of video games discover new games. It's how I discover new games. And so leveraging influencers for their voice and what they are already experts at is where we specialize. And so we look at creators similarly to Bradley and his team on all scales, recognizing that even somebody with 50 concurrent viewers can make an impact just as much as somebody with 10,000 viewers. And so, yeah, we think it's the most important channel. We think it's the most authentic channel. And honestly, I think it's the future of how kind of advertising is going to continue to evolve. They convert than really anything, which is awesome. It's just amazing just to trust that this is how we're getting our information now and how it's continued to change.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I want to do this a little bit later. I'm very curious to dig into the unit economics and the sort of the business model behind the influencers. But I want to start at the top and just say, let's take it at a high level. What are the trends that drive successful influencers and UGC campaigns today? And I think we'll just take this from both perspectives. Start with you, Emilee. As an influencer channel, what are the trends that you're seeing that are the most important in order to be successful here?
I think the level of professionalism it's starting earlier than I would ever think. Content creators of all sizes are taking it. This is their job, right? This is their livelihood. This is how they're paying the bills. And so just the general quality of content has skyrocketed, even over the 3 years that I've really been doing this end to end. And so that's the first trend I see, is that creators are tasking themselves with expanding. Influencers buying esports teams or making their own games, and they're taking user-generated content and making it into something more, which is, the bar is insane at this point. And so that's one of the biggest trends I'm seeing, is that creators are going from, I just play games, I love games, to now I'm making my own games, or I'm getting involved on the dev side, or whatever it is.
It's really the personality focused business expansion and empire. And this is a really interesting thing. I think there's some really smart folks who, and I think you probably agree with this, see influencer led brands as the next big wave that we're going to see really massive impact and outsized impact. I feel if you look at someone like Mr. Beast, he's a phenomenon. It breaks my brain to understand. He's literally going to put out a mobile game and he's going to make a video about it to get 100 million installs. And that's right. Warren and I spend all day, every day for years to get 100 million installs. He's going to make one video. And so I totally agree to you that the professionalism and level of investment that these influencers are making is really meaningful. Bradley, on the creative side, what are you seeing you talked a little bit about authenticity, but can you talk more about what you think really makes a successful influencer from the perspective of creative?
From the perspective of creative, what I look for is someone, when they look at me and they talk to me, they have the ability to connect, right? Someone that just has a really good personality. Sometimes they have the right voice, the right tonality to the way they talk. Because for us on our side, a lot of the creative, it comes from us. It comes from our team. We spend a lot of time coming up with ideas, writing out scripts and concepts, and then we utilize our everyday people to just come in and say, this is what I'd like you to do. This is what I'd like you to do. You know what I mean? The creative side is typically all coming from us on our side of the UGC network. But for just to call back to the Mr. Beast thing, he actually did make an app for a contest that he did where everybody had to hold a button for the last person to let go won some money or something. So I'm sure he made a mint off that.
I had people do it, which is crazy. It's like insane.
The influence behind someone like that is something that always makes people get excited, right? The Mr. Beasts and the big influencers, they're like the 1%, and they cost you an arm and a leg. And it's tantamount to putting your product on in a window on a busy street at Nordstrom's or something in hopes that every passerby is going to purchase it. So I'm not really a big believer in using larger influencers to push products, because typically larger influencers, fans know that they've got endorsement after brand deal after paycheck, and they're less inclined to purchase. So what I've noticed is like a lot of people that they're either diehard fans and download it because Mr. B said so. A lot of the time, people will just see that and be like, oh, yeah, they got another deal. That's awesome. Oh, they got another deal. That's awesome. But when they see a smaller, less recognizable face, they tend to trust it more, because it's something that they know that if they are getting paid, they're probably not getting paid an asinine amount of money like Mr. Beast would be. There's probably a good chance of the audience taking it in a little bit better. So it's all about understanding consumer motivations and what they care about, what they want. And what they want to see is genuine connection from a person that can relay a good message.
Yeah, that's where data and measurement becomes so critical, I think, in both of these buckets, because we've definitely seen the same thing in our team's testing in my past roles of actually almost an inverse correlation of the bigger an influencer is as a personal brand, the more premium you're paying for every impression. And really, at the end of the day, what's your cost per result, return on ad spend, and doing like a money ball with both UGC and creative. Emilee, I know at Gamesight, obviously you guys, the whole other part of your business is all around measurement and data. So I'm curious if you have similar thoughts to Bradley as far as the relationship between the size of influencers and efficacy. What sort of trends and best practices do you advise to?
At core, like Bradley's totally right. Like size does not equal conversion at all, or rarely ever. So what we try to focus on our end is looking at audiences that are going to convert. Having millions and millions of followers is a great jump pad, but if your product doesn't back that up, exactly, they're going to install it because my favorite content creator told me to, and I'm never going to play it again. So I think it's really important when working, especially with those larger content creators, that you are targeting them correctly. Is it a game that they would like to play, that they would spend time playing in their off time, off stream, or wherever? Is it something that they're excited about? And I think a lot of that legwork is done in the data side of looking at their history. What have they been playing? What has been driving the most engagement? And I think some of that is on trend, right? Right now, probably everyone is playing Tears of the Kingdom. And a few months ago, they were all playing Hogwarts. And it all keeps going, right? But did their audiences respond well to those things, or types of games that are similar to what's coming next? And that's what we really try to look at. And I don't think we ever work with those any creator really flippantly. We really try to target them and make sure that they are a fit and that they are going to enjoy it and that their audience is going to enjoy it, because it's really easy to tell when a brand deal is a brand deal and you're moving on to the next thing, right, especially when it can be so saturated. Yeah, looking at their audience and how they receive it is really important.
Yeah, just on audience resonance, right? That's why you get the sort of force multiplier. Okay, I have another question. I think I know the answers, but I really want to, I'm very curious what you guys think. Emilee, what channels, so the question is, what channels are useful or most useful right now for getting traction with UGC and influencer? And my assumption is they're probably different. I'm going to get a different answer from both of you. So Emilee, let's start with you. Where are you seeing most of your success in terms of your influencer campaigns that you're doing with UGC?
Most of my success, I always have to caveat that it is product-based, like same thing, right? Your game has to be good for it to be to get traction, but we are seeing a lot of success on TikTok. That is one that's a big measurement point for us. YouTube Shorts, TikTok, even integrated ads have been more impactful than you might think, even though those can sometimes feel like commercials, but I think they've been really successful. And then, as always, our bread and butter is what we would say is just the well-targeted, just Twitch streams, dedicated videos. But yeah, TikTok has really raised the bar lately too, and it's making for some really cool content.
And Bradley, I imagine I expect some TikTok in your future. What are your thoughts about where your creatives are doing well?
With TikTok specifically, it's a great channel for influencer network, influencer videos. Obviously, that's where a lot of influencers create their own content, so it looks really organic there. But CTV is actually where we're seeing a lot of success because it's more native to the platform to have people on there than it is to just have visual graphics and motion graphics and stuff like that. So we've been helping a lot of our clients to convert to CTV with CTV performing ads. And what we like to do there is we like to catch on to all the fun trends. Like if I was a 35-year-old female, what kind of shows would I like to watch? And then we can play off of those shows. And with the different networks that you can run CTV ads on, they give a lot of information back on what channels are they watching when they're served your ads. So you can base your ad ideas around that.
I have a follow-up question, Bradley. When our teams, we have like a mini UGC team within Upptic, not at the scale of what you guys do, but when we design, we think is like a primary use case and secondary use case. So we might design with, okay, cool, this game's really scaling on TikTok, so we'll design for TikTok first and port it to other channels. CTV is actually a really cool answer. I haven't heard a lot of discussion around UGC for CTV, but it's very intuitive. Do you find that how you need to design for CTV first is different in any ways for TikTok or Instagram? And if so, what is different?
CTV is a little bit more expensive, right? Because you really got to set the scene. There's a lot of props, custom-made costumes, because you're really trying to create an idea. Versus like when you're doing something for TikTok, you can do lower budget. It's expected to have pharmacy costumes. But when you're on CTV, it's going to be high quality, 4K. You want it to be something that looks good on TV. So we do a lot of Etsy custom orders and stuff like that. We've got a 15th century writer's desk in there, like just crazy stuff. Like I've got a whole garage full of stuff that is just a prop room full of things that we use for CTV ads specifically, because that's one of the things that I notice is the biggest difference, right?
Yeah.
Is how much you're really putting into it versus the other typical networks, which I've made pretty high value ads for YouTube before. And even for TikTok, I built a lemonade stand for venture capitalists, and we did a bunch of series of ads for them for that. For CTV, it's all about, if you're going to go in, you go all in. You're testing something out. It's the Wild West all over again. It's a new network. And the ads that you make for Facebook, you can't typically transfer over to CTV. They're just not going to convert as well.
Yeah, that seems logical to me. I remember in a past role, we were looking at expanding to TV ads for a game I was working on. And our default starting point was like, let's take a look at the ads that have been doing the best on mobile. And we just literally blowing them up and looking at them on a TV screen. We're like, yeah, this is not going to work. We need something different here. So yeah, it's very logical that, what looks right on a 60-inch screen may need a higher level of production value than what looks okay on your phone.
Those are the clients that typically say, we have a cartoon we want you to make real. You know what I mean? And we've done that several times for CTV. Take a top performing animated graphic and then make it real.
Bradley, in the interest of being really tactical for our audience briefly, what are some of the channels that you guys are seeing very successful for CTV? Do you know what the actual distribution networks are?
TV Scientific is a great network to use. And the reason why I say them specifically, I won't even name any other networks, because if you're going to be testing, test on a network that gives you the ability to get some data back that makes sense, right? That you can actually do something with. And TV Scientific is constantly innovating, trying to find new ways to make the product better and help their clients understand the space better. And it's also super affordable, right? So, because like you're paying for one impression, but you're typically getting 4 because families surround the TV to watch things together. Your IPM is like chef's kiss. You know what I mean?
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so I want to go a little bit more into the business side of the whole influencer ecosystem. Starting with you, Emilee, like what is it, from Gamesight's perspective, what does a traditional engagement with an influencer look like?
Yeah, definitely. Our engagement with influencers is end to end. So that starts at the discovery process from who is going to play this game, who do we want to play this game, and who are we selecting? And that is like a whole vetted process. There's some data that picks out everybody, and then our team will go through and be like, these are great fits. This is who we would work with.
So we can pay you to do everything. Like how much of that is Gamesight? How much of the influencer? Like how do you model an engagement with an influencer? So what's that process look like?
Yeah. So on the influencer side, we do cost estimates using just a simple formula using their average concurrent viewership. And that typically looks like $1 to $1.50, maybe even $2, depending on if it's a premium per view. That formula is relatively simple. Average viewers times 1.125 or whatever it is. And that's how we would find our base hourly rate for any creator. And that's something we share broadly with creators that might be doing this for the first time, that might have 20 viewers. Being able to let them know what the industry standard is super important, because a lot of people don't know how to value themselves. And that similarly translates to YouTube. We look at around 8 to 10 cents per view. Again, there's always an exception for premiums and exceptions for things that might drive cost. But yeah, and that's based on your average video views. And we usually look at those windows anywhere from 30 to 90 days. We want the sample to be as fresh as possible because, yeah, some people might have had a really big peak 10 months ago, but that doesn't mean that their rate is still current in our present day. So that's our general economics around it, I would say.
That's super interesting, Emilee, and thanks for being like transparent and detailed about that. The first thing that jumps out at me when you mention that number is we're in the kind of the media buying portion of our business and performance marketing. We're always thinking about CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions. With that model, that's like essentially like $1,000 CPM, which for a traditional performance marketer might seem like exponentially high. Like we're used to numbers closer in the like maybe high single digits to maybe teens in eCPM budgets. So maybe you could speak a little bit, if I'm sure that this has come up before, of how should people think about why is the impression of someone speaking to their audience as an influencer, maybe that should be valued differently or more highly than an ad impression?
Right. Yeah, I would say the value really lies, and especially on live platforms like YouTube Live or Twitch, you're getting an ad that you can't skip. And it's an ad that's so almost seamlessly integrated into your broadcast that it has the audience's attention already. When a pre-roll ad goes up, I'm usually getting up, doing the dishes, taking the dog out, completely disconnecting. But if I have to listen to my favorite streamer do an ad read, I'm like, cool, they got a sponsorship, they're checking out this game, I'm here to watch them, so I'm going to stick around. And so that live view is just more valuable than something that might cost you 5 cents or whatever.
Yeah. And so the other thing that I'm thinking about is like intent, right? So like when you're watching your favorite streamer, you're there by choice. It's not an ad interrupting your experience. So very high intent, pre-qualified. And it may be a weird parallel, but like in some ways it's like for search marketing. Search marketing, you're willing to pay a higher CPM because someone's already explicitly interested in your product or something similar. So that maybe is a useful, I don't know if you think that's a useful framework, but that's helping me to square the pricing of influencers as a channel versus advertising and why they're on first glance so different from each other.
Yeah, and I think there's a good point there too of if our job is done well, we've already done that pre-vetting, right? We know who's actually going to be interested in the product that we're advertising. And so that legwork is done, right? So you're not paying to discover who your audience is. We know who our audience is. Now we're just paying to get them to buy the game or to install it or whatever it is. And that's, sure, I think, where the value comes. And it's really important that it's well-targeted and authentic. And
yeah, and I can definitely vouch for your team and the way that you guys approach influencer campaigns for games. So there's been a number of games that we've brought forth to your team. And before anything else, they present research and a suggested list. And sometimes, and this is how I know Gamesight is a high-integrity team, they just say, yeah, this game's not going to work. And if you guys were just prioritizing selling your services above all else, like you wouldn't be doing that. So that's something I've always respected about your team's approach.
Yeah, and we're a team too that, without getting too pluggy, if there's a game that's coming to us, like, and I haven't seen it before, I want to spend time with it. I don't want to waste anybody's time, whether it's content creators, my team's time, or our customers' time. If it's not what they should be doing, like, we should let them know. We love games, right? And we want that ecosystem to be healthy. And so spending time with those games and those customers and being honest is always the best approach, in my opinion.
Yeah, Bradley, do you have any thoughts on that note of, as you think of the roster of talent that you work with, how do you think about pairing the right talent with the right product for your team?
For our team, like whenever we get a product, we take a deep dive to better understand it. So if we were making a commercial for a grill, we would use it. We would try to break it. We would do whatever we could to get the full experience. So we spent a couple of days learning the product. We take a deep dive into all the reviews for the product on both stores, see what people love and hate about it. We watch ads, top performing, low performing, try to reverse engineer the mechanics that are being focused, what like messaging is being shown. And once we have all of that understood, we become these experts on the game, essentially. So where we can just take an actor into the studio and teach them to be an expert. So at that point, after we have a better understanding of the product, and one of the things that we help a lot of our clients with is targeting their underserved demographic as well, right? They've got their target demographic of males 18 to 35, but for some reason, there's some females 35 plus that seem to love this RPG. Let's cater to them as well. So it really just depends on the demographic. If it's a young male, you could use a young male, you can use a fatherly figure, you could use a young male and his girlfriend, a young male and his brother, roommate. There's a lot of different scenarios that you can go with, or you can go with a female that might be an attractor module. So we try to take into play the motivations of the users that are playing. Are they a grandmother? Would they love to see something about family? Would they love to see something about a young male with a man bun? I don't know. Let's explore. And that's what we do with a lot of our clients is we help them test and learn. We call it responsible UA, trying to help them test on different platforms, right? Because a YouTube user goes to YouTube to learn and watch long format content. A TikTok user goes on there to watch quick, easily to absorb short form content that is typically like comedy or just really entertaining or informative. Because like without TikTok, we wouldn't know what was going on in the world sometimes. So just kind of leveraging those things, right? Leveraging those the platform, because those are like my key questions when we take on a new product. Like what platforms are you running the ads on? Because that matters who we use. It would change between Facebook and TikTok. It's a math to it almost, just trying to make the best decision you can. Because when you're talking about user acquisition, it's a gamble, right? You're talking about tens of thousands of dollars that a company is spending. Some poor person on the other line is responsible for those tens of thousands of dollars. And at the end of the day, they have to show something in exchange for it. So we take it really serious here, and we try to help our clients make a educated decision as to who to use in their products, right? Because we always let them choose. We say, you choose out of our deck. These are the people that we would recommend based on these reasons.
And so if I'm a young influencer, I want to find a way to break into the influencer world. Emilee talked a little bit about like her expectation around what you're getting paid. How do you guys think about how you pay your influencers out and how then you engage with your clients?
So we do a flat rate for everybody. Everybody's worth the same, right? Nobody's more important than the next person. Everybody is making an ad for a big named company and they deserve to be paid as such. And it's in the neighborhood of $300 to $400, depending on the project that we're working on. Because if it's like a larger to-do where we're going to be out there for 6 hours throwing dummies out of helicopters, I'm probably going to have to pay you a little bit more every time, especially if you're the one in the helicopter throwing the dummy out. But for an influencer that's trying to break into the space, I would just say, know your worth, know your value, and you're like your own storekeeper of your candy shop. You get to determine how much you charge for a candy bar and how much you charge for a bag of gummies. I spent a lot of time when I was running that influencer management company every day in and day out in Discord conversations with these influencers, talking about their goals, talking about their dreams, talking about their trials and tribulations in their everyday life, and understanding what they're going through. And almost all of them were dealing with some sort of physical or mental disability, living it, working from home, trying to make it, trying to find their way. We worked with this entire team of streamers that were blind, completely blind. We used one of them in a commercial, and the kind client said, could someone just please point him towards the camera? We love his personality, and he performed really well. Everybody has value. Not everybody sees it in themselves because of imposter syndrome. They see other people doing the same thing, only better, no matter what it is. If you're great at the piano, someone's better at it. If you just own your ability to do things, you can accomplish great things. We've seen it a million times over.
Yeah, and it's interesting just to the point of, Emilee, I think you see a little bit more, there's variance because you're getting distribution in your channel versus Bradley's focused really on the creative. We talked about this a little bit, but I really want us to do a double click on metrics and how KPIs and how we think about success. Emilee, I also just to go to you to start, how do your clients think about success? What are the metrics you measure? What does good conversion look like versus bad conversion look like? Can you just give us a little bit of rundown like the business side from a UA perspective?
Certainly. Success looks different for every customer. The majority, I would say, are looking for either that cost per click or they're looking for just the raw views. And those are really relatively easy to measure depending on what we're doing. But yeah, KPIs definitely vary. There's awareness campaigns, there's pure install campaigns, and we measure that from any level of success. I would say on the viewership side, we look a drop off of no more than 20 to 40%. We would consider that like a campaign of that size to be successful. For clicks, it's harder to pinpoint. Obviously, factoring in things like free-to-play games, pay-to-play games, success looks a little bit different. That click-through rate looks a little bit different. So it's hard to put a good number on it.
Yeah, makes sense. And then, Bradley, and from your perspective, I don't know how many of the metrics do you back from your teams when you're working on this, but do you have a sort of barometer of what you cross different channels for your...
So being the nature of our business, being a creative agency that just makes creatives and delivers them to the client to run on the networks themselves, we don't typically get fed back the direct data. They'll come back and say, hey, this was a top performer. Let's make a series.
Sure.
We have a few clients that we've worked with in the past that did some case studies for us. And the data that we go by is just if the client comes back and they're like, hey, last ads were great. Let's redo these 3 and let's do it this way.
Yeah.
We
So
don't really
more high level. Yeah.
Yeah. We're creative people. We don't really have hands on the data. They don't let us touch it. They're afraid we're going to break it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in here with a quick PSA to anyone working with a creative agency. Share your data with them, walk through the data with them. Even if, as Bradley said, there might not be data-focused experts, not like a core focus of them as individuals. If you can talk them through what's working, what's not working, that sounding board is very important. And I see too many teams erring on the other side of, we don't want to expose our data. It's like the exact opposite. If you don't give that feedback loop to the team making the content for you, you're just going to end up with worse results. Have that conversation with them. Like, it's only going to produce upside.
Okay.
Yeah, our answer to that, with them not being able to give us the data back, was to build the campaigns methodically, right? Let's learn, do males work better than females, older versus younger, cultural or ethnic versus Caucasian and white? We've noticed by doing it that way, we're able to get our own kind of data back, right? We're able to say, okay, females that look hipsterish work really great for rewarded products. The strong messaging that we were able to work out for adventure capitalists of just how fast-paced and hectic it can be trying to keep up with the money. These things like are driving motivators, right? We we get our clients to try to learn something every time we do a campaign with them. They'll take like a top performing creative that they have that's motion graphics, and then we'll just slap an actor on top of it and have them pretend to be experiencing it. And we've seen a lot of good performance with that.
Cool. So I want to look forward. We're getting close to time. We basically ask at the end of every podcast, how is generative AI going to affect your industry? Because that's the only thing that anyone cares about right now. It's like, how does crypto going to affect your industry last year? So Emilee, how is generative AI going to affect your industry, if at all?
Yeah, I think AI, it has its place. It will never replace people and humanity and all of those things, because that is just as important. But
never.
I would say for us, we've seen a lot of success with AI helping us make ideas tangible. When you're pitching a concept, especially a creative concept, if a customer can't see it or envision how it actually plays out, oftentimes they might be like, timeline's too tight, that's too hard, or this is too complicated, or I don't know how that's going to fit. And we've used AI in that way to really show, like, this is what's possible. Yeah, it's not perfect.
Oh, so like for storyboarding.
Yeah, for storyboarding.
Basically,
that's
a great use case.
A lot. Because yeah, of course, we're not going to just make AI content and have them use it, but I would say we use it a lot for just ideation and road mapping. And then even bringing it to creators, that's what we get asked a lot. What is the brief? What do you want me to do? Very rarely do creators want to take something and mold it and shape it. Some do. Some really do, but others are just like, hey, what am I supposed to be doing here? I love the game. I just don't know what you want me to say. I want to make sure I'm doing everything right, crossing my T's and dotting my I's. And so leveraging AI in that way has been really, I think, helpful for me and other folks that we work with.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And just in the interest of, again, being very tactical, what are some of the specific AI tools you're using for that process?
Oh gosh, what is that one in Discord, Midjourney? Is one that's been helpful at creating, I want to do a roller coaster. And then it's like, it can be whatever you want it to be. Those image spitting ones have been great. We've used ChatGPT a lot for just either
time over here.
Yeah, whether it's just like throwing your own pitches in there and seeing what it spits back out or anything like that. Everything goes through either ChatGPT, stuff like Midjourney is great. Then obviously vetting it internally is huge as well.
Of course. How about you, Bradley? Have you started down this rabbit hole? Any thoughts here?
The thing is about AI, and that everybody should keep in mind, is corporate type love it. The consumer is always number one in our space, right? And there's just as many people that are leery of AI as there are that are interested in AI. And then about 30% of the population is concerned about AI. A lot of people are afraid, this is going to take my job. Will this affect my job? And then a lot of corporate type are saying, this is a tool for you to make you feel better. It's not to replace you, I swear. I've been saying that, look, the first company to come out there and says AI just revolutionized our business. We've decided to lay off 300,000 people. it'll stop happening really quick. It's a very fine boundary. A lot of companies are pushing up on their employees to catch up to the race or fall behind. This is the thing about AI is it's not going to take much for it to get out of control to where it's maybe got too much access and clients no longer like that. They don't feel comfortable with that.
You're touching on I think a really good point to double click on, Bradley, which is just because you can do a lot with AI and you can do a version of UGC, and like our creative team does a ton of experimentation. So we've been playing with AI a ton for creative production. And we've taken AI ads from front to back. So script generated by AI for the voice, just in the spirit of experimentation. And the little things matter a lot with creative. So like that uncanny valley is still very much a real thing. And you can get something that like feels like a real person doing UGC, but it's just unsettling. And if anything, like we've been using it as experimenting with, this is intentionally like an unsettling ad. And you can have something that almost feels human and feels natural, but if it's too close without being, it's just off-putting to the viewer. And those last few percentages like matter a lot. So the conversation we're having today in May of 2023, it's probably not going to be the state 3 months from now, but like I definitely would recommend do not try to replace. UGC has a very powerful element, as does Influencers as a channel, because it's real, because it's human. And 3 months from now, we might be saying like, hey, we're one-to-one with what AI can do. That is not the state of things at this moment. Yeah, research, but don't throw your current UGC and influencer strategies out the window just yet.
I would say, just going off that too, it should enhance your work. It shouldn't do your work.
Exactly.
Just like Grammarly, it enhances my work. It makes my writing better, but it doesn't do my work for me. That's the big key with AI. And I think we've even seen content creators embrace it. It's like using it as a piece of content, of recognizing that it's this new thing that has a lot of questions. It has a lot of nuance, but how are they going to use it to start their own conversations has been really interesting. And I just saw Disguised Toast did a video trying to tell the difference between AI voices between friends. The AI is not making the video and doing all the things. It's just a part of it. And so I think that's the big difference for me, is looking at a piece of information that's going to enhance your work and not just do it for you. This is huge.
Did anybody else happen to see that video of AI Socrates debating with AI Bill Gates floating around LinkedIn?
I did.
Yes.
Like AI Socrates had some pretty valid points. The more you rely on ChatGPT to enhance your job, the less you're going to have the ability to think cognitively.
Yeah.
It's going to dim that ability that you have had all these years when you start to rely on something else.
Yeah, I think it's a fair concern. What I recall from reading Socrates, he's really good at tearing down other people's ideas, but not really good at suggesting some of his own. I spent quite a bit of time in college reading his stuff. Anyway, we're at time. That was AI Corner with Upptic. Really appreciate both of you joining us today. I think there's a lot of really interesting content here, and we really got to attack this from a bunch of different perspectives. Yeah, I'm really stoked that you guys were both on the call with us. Emilee, if someone wants to get a hold of you or learn more about Gamesight, where can they do that?
Yep. To learn more about Gamesight, you can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and then, of course, our website, gamesight.io. Just like eyesight, but Gamesight, not Game Insight. And then if they wanted to find me, I'm same thing available, Emilee Helm on LinkedIn, Emilee Helm on Twitter, and then my email is just emily@gamesight.io. I love getting emails and love talking to other folks in the industry, so always welcome it.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Bradley, how about you?
Yeah, and if anybody's looking for some high-performing UGC creatives for CTV or TikTok, they can reach out to me at ceo@luckyaxolotlink.com. They can find me on LinkedIn, Bradley Kincaid, or they can reach out to my brother, Tim Kincaid.
Awesome. Warren, take us out.
Bradley, Emilee, this was great. This was an area I think we've been overdue for a deep dive in, and hopefully this was a high-value episode for the listeners. Thank you so much. As always, the podcast is brought to you by our team here at Upptic. At Upptic, we do all things games growth. We provide the cross-disciplinary workforce for user acquisition, Web3 organic marketing, analytics, and creative. And then we also have the Upptic software platform, which we use for all of our clients. And we also license this to smaller and now even some larger teams to power and streamline their own marketing operations. So we do a lot of stuff. We're pretty friendly. We're always happy to talk, take a look at your game, and set you in the right direction, even if that's not with us. So if you want to learn more about Upptic, you can always reach us through our website. It's upptic.com. That's upptic.com.
Talk soon.